Hey, who got into my Chinese leftovers, huh? Did you get into my Chinese food leftovers? I think you did. And she was very happy about it. Stupid cat. You're lucky I like you. So I promised to go more in depth into the remainder of the Invasion set. Not covering the rest of the block yet, just the remainder of the Invasion set. So, in the interest of starting somewhere, let's start with lands. We had, I covered the cycle of lands earlier, where it comes into play tapped, it taps for 1 mana of a specific color, or you can sacrifice that land for 1 mana of each of that each of that color's allied colors. So, for example, Ancient Spring taps for blue. You can tap and sack it for white-black. We also had a cycle of uncommon lands. Came into play tapped and tapped for 1 of 2 allied colors. For example, Coastal Tower taps for white and blue. It's not a dual land. Some people would call it dual land because it provides 2 different colors of mana. I can't call that a dual land. I'm sorry, guys. Like I've said in the past, if the rules text cannot be summarized as land and then 2 different basic land types, and that's it, it's not a dual land. It's some sort of pale imitation of a dual land. Though the Ravnica Shock lands really do come the closest to the original duels, and in my opinion, those should seriously be reprinted, because they were awesome. We also had Archaeological Dig. Does not come into play tapped. Taps for colorless, and you can sacrifice it for 1 mana of any color. I'm not really keen on it. Do we have anything else outstanding? Elfane Palace. That's the white-green, comes into play tapped land. More from the sacrificing cycle. Keldon Necropolis. Does not come into play tapped. It's a legendary land. Taps for colorless. 4 colorless, red, tap, sacrifice a creature, 2 damage target creature or player. That's really high on the mana curve, and to be perfectly blunt, outside of limited, draft, sealed deck, it's not really a good card. Sad to say, you know? And I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of effort was put into making Invasion really good for draft. And it really was. But I think a big problem is a lot of the cards in Invasion suffered outside of the draft environment because they just really weren't all that great and constructed, which is a real shame. Salt Marsh, there's the blue-black, comes into play, tapped. Shivan Oasis, the red-green. And Urborg Volcano, the black-red. That's basically it for non-basic lands, at least that I have, out of the set. Yeah, I trimmed out a whole bunch. I have extras. Let's go into the artifacts now. Chromatic Sphere, 1 colorless, tap and sacrifice it for 1 mana of any color, draw a card. I want to say that this is not a reprint, but it's a send-up of another older card that had a very similar effect. And I can't think of what it is. Chromatic Sphere would be reprinted in later years. You'd see it in the original Mirrodin block. It's a good, it's a decent, solid effect. Yuntu Stakes, or Yuntu Stakes, however you want to pronounce it. It's 2 colorless. Creatures with power of 1 or less don't untap during controller's untap step. It's okay for locking down utility creatures. I don't think it really saw much play in limited or in constructed, to be perfectly honest. It was a junk rare, and back in the day, we were pretty sure that when we went to redraft for prizes, that some kid was taking the good rares he drafted and just replacing them with Young 2 Stakes. I don't think we were ever able to prove it, but oh well. Savo's Web. This is another card that was, if I recall correctly, was designed to try and hose the old Rishadan port. When it comes into play, draw a card. It's a 2-color artifact. Lands with activated abilities that don't produce mana don't untap during their controller's untaps. So, that means there's a lot of land with funky abilities that won't be untapping. It's not bad. Unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of those in this set. It was mostly there to hose port. We had the series of cameos. There were a trio of 3-costed cards that tap for 1 mana of 2 allied colors. For example, the Bloodstone cameo was black-red. Drake Skull was blue-black. I mean, you can see a lot of mana fixing in the artifacts, and even in the special lands as well. You know, this goes hand in hand with the block being very, very multicolor fixated. Phyrexian Altar, 3 colorless artifact, sack a creature for 1 mana of any color. It's basically it's a color-specific version of Ashnod's Altar, which I think Ashnod's Altar is more combo-rific than this is, because it produces more mana in quantity, though the Ashnod's version doesn't produce colored mana. Phyrexian Lens, 3 colorless artifact, tap and pay a life for 1 mana of any color. That's not all that bad, actually. It's not great, but hey, you know what? It's great for an emergency mana fix, or emergency and mana acceleration. I don't think people played it much. Seashell cameo, it's taps for white, blue, more for the cameo series. Sparring Golem, it's a 2/2. If he becomes blocked, he gets +1/+1 till end of turn for each creature blocking it. Right here we're seeing an attempt to make a fixed version of Rampage. They try and do that a lot throughout the years, and it never really caught on. For those that don't know, Rampage was an old ability you saw on the original Elder Dragons. On one of them, Chromium was 7/7 Flying Rampage 2. If you look at what Rampage does, it's really not particularly in character for Chromium's color combination, white, blue, black. Rampage was a special ability, and I know I've talked about it at least briefly before. It's Rampage, number. You know, what Rampage says is whenever this creature becomes blocked, it gets +X/+X for each creature blocking it beyond the first, where X is the Rampage number. The fact that it was for each creature beyond the first is what made it non-intuitive. Beyond that, you can't really say much on Rampage. When it was useful, it was fantastic. When it wasn't, it just sat there and said, yeah, I'm going to boost the casting cost of your card for no particular reason. You know, there are better ways to, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not going to say it. That's all there is to say about it. Tiger Eye cameo, taps for white, green. Trollhorn, red, green. Power Armor. This is a card that if it were printed today would probably be an equipment. It's 4 colorless, it's an artifact. 3 colorless tap, target creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn for each basic land type amongst lands you control. It's not too bad, it's not great. It'd be better if you had the option to not if it was changed to say as long as it remained tapped, and you may choose not to untap it during your untap. Save yourself a little mana. But hey, you know what? In the days before equipment, you weren't getting too much better. Urza's Filter. Fortunately, I only own one of these, but that's okay. 4 colorless artifact. Multicolor spells cost you up to 2 colors less to play. It's alright. We have the series of Attendants. Each was a 5 casting cost, 3/3 artifact creature golem. And you'd pump 1 colorless into it and sacrifice it for 3 mana, one of each of the appropriate colors. For instance, Crossus, the red, black, blue legendary dragon in Invasion. His Attendant, you sacrifice him for red, black, blue. Or if you want to go in the order on the card, blue, black, red. Got here. It's Crossus's, Darigas, Dromars, Riths. Hey, look, there's Tech in the middle of there, because alphabetically Tech is before Treva. Tech is an interesting one. Tech is 5 colors for a 2/2 artifact creature dragon, which there weren't a lot of those printed. Gets +0/+2 as long as you control planes. Flying if you control an island, +2/+0 if you control a swamp, first strike if you have a mountain, and trample if you control a forest. So, worst case scenario, if for some reason you have no basic land types amongst lands you control, he's just a 2/2 for 5, horribly overcosted. Best case scenario, all 5 land types are represented. He's a 4/4 flying first strike trample. And to be perfectly honest, 5 mana for a 4/4 flying first strike trample, but you have to be playing all 5 basic land types. He's cute, he's interesting, I don't think I'd ever play him. Sad to say. You can get better with less effort. Alloy Golem, he's a fun one. He's a 4/4 for 6 mana. When he comes into play, you choose a color. He is the chosen color. Yeah, I'm not 100% certain, but this may actually be the first artifact creature with an innate color. Mind you, it's an innate color that you choose, but that's not the point. It's kind of funky, and he was, actually kind of useful when you're talking about a block where color matters. Planar Portal. This thing was really good in Limited, questionable in Draft. Actually, I wouldn't be... I think this might actually even be playable in EDH, now that I think about it. 6 colorless artifact, 6 colorless tap. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, shuffle. You might sit there and say, yeah, it's kind of high casting cost, the activation cost is high, blah, 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 blah. Given that EDH is a relatively slow environment, I'm thinking that the portal might actually be playable in it. It's just something for me to think about. And you too, if you like, I don't know. Lotus Guardian. It's a 4/4 flyer for 7 mana, tap for 1 mana of any color. I don't like him. I don't think anybody did. And that's all there really is to say about him. So, moving on to the really interesting stuff, the multicolor cards. First thing we have are the split cards. This was revolutionary. This was totally new. I mean, some people who, they've been there for Time Spiral, they've been there for Alara, they've been there for Ravnica. They don't understand that this Invasion is where this started. Were there split cards in Alara block? I don't remember. I didn't have a lot of Alara. I ordered it a few days ago, several days ago, but I don't recall one way or the other. But I know they were in Ravnica block. I know that there were some in Time Spiral. Time Spiral block split cards were actually kind of interesting in that both halves of the card were red. Go fig, right? But these things, this was totally new. For example, Stand and Deliver. While in your hand, it counted as 1 card. However, if you were counting colors, it counted as a white card. It counted as a blue card. So, for example, if I had, say, I don't know, let's Display these bad boys out in a little bit. Let's say I had a Stand and Deliver and a Wax and Wane in hand. And you were allowed to ask me questions about cards in hand. Like, for example, how many cards do you have in hand? I could say 2. Perfectly correct response. You could say, how many white cards do you have in hand? I could say 2. And how many green cards do you have in hand? 1. How many blue cards do you have in hand? 1. And the interesting thing, it's really interesting. It's really nice. It's very derivative. In some ways, it's derivative of the concept of the modal spells. That is, spells that you play it and you choose one, this or that. In some ways, it reminds me of the cards, the Entwine mechanic that would show up later in Mirrodin block, where it was like choose this or that, or entwine and choose both. It's neat because you can have, like, you know, you have basically 2 effects in 2 totally separate colors, and with different casting costs. For example, Stand and Deliver, you've got a white for an instant that prevents the next 2 damage that we dealt to a creature this turn, or 2 colors in a blue to return target permanent to owner's hand. That's pretty saucy, you know? These things are really awesome. They brought a lot of interesting flexibility to decks. Wax and Wane. Wax was a slightly depowered giant growth. It was +2/+2 instead of +3/+3. And Wane was destroy target enchantment. So Wane was like half a disenchant. Assault and Battery. Assault was a sorcery speed shock, and Battery put a 3/3 elephant token into play. And you know, they were all honestly, Battery was, neither of them were costed particularly badly. I mean, if you were to compare them to their closest non-split card equivalents, yeah, neither of them is on curve. But you put them a little bit below curve and you make a split card out of them, and people don't mind. We didn't. It was actually pretty cool. Pain and Suffering. Pain is target player discards a card from their hand. Suffering, destroy target land. Pain actually was more or less on mana curve, actually. It's a single black to make them discard a card. Pain's pretty close to on curve. Suffering, at the time, was a little bit behind curve. These days, we might even say it's a little bit ahead of curve. Because when you think land destruction for 3 colors and a red, that's almost what we expect these days. Sadly. Lands need to explode more. Spite, 3 colors and a blue to counter target non-creature spell. It's a bit behind the curve for the day. Even today, it's a bit behind the curve. Malice, destroy target non-black creature, can't be regenerated for 3 colors and a black. Some people look at that and they're like, wait, it's Doomblade. It's Doomblade for twice the casting cost. But you have to keep in mind, at the time we didn't have Doomblade. We had Dark Banishing, which essentially was the same as Doomblade, but for 1 more mana. So we have it on the split card. Casting cost pumped up a little bit. 3 colors and a black. The split cards were really an awesome concept. For the most part, the player base loves it when they do them. And you can't blame anyone on that one either, because split cards kick ass. They really do. And the battery on this is running low. I don't like that. So I'm going to try and go through the the multicolor cards real fast. I don't want to. If I realized the battery was going to run low while I was doing this, I would have recharged it. Makes me unhappy. So let's see if we can't go through these really quick. Got the Angelic Shield. It's okay. All creatures you control get +0/+1. It's an enchantment. You can sacrifice it to bounce target creature to owner's hand for a white and a blue. That's not bad for what it does. It doesn't limit itself just to your creatures, so that's alright. Artifact Mutation. Red-green, instant, blow up an artifact. You get Saproling tokens equal to the artifact's casting cost. That's not bad, actually. There were a few cards along those lines where you blow something up and get Saproling tokens. For example, Aura Mutation, which pretty much does the same thing for white-green for enchantments. Gaia's Knight, that's the cycle of Build a Better Bear that I was talking about a few days back. Heroes Reunion, target player gains 7 life. It's an instant for a white and green. That's one of the better life gain spells ever printed, because if you know, hey, look at it, man, it's an instant, it's 2 mana, it's a lot of life. It's actually a life gain spell that theoretically is playable. And there aren't many good playable life gain spells in the game. Meteor Shower, reminds me of, I can't even remember what the heck it was called, a enchantment in Ice Age that you would pitch cards and pay mana for like 2 damage to our creature or player. I can't even remember what it's called off the top of my head, and I'm probably going to think about it like 2 minutes after I start posting the video. But Meteor Storm reminds me of it. It's red-green, it's enchantment, pump 2 colors, a red and a green, discard 2 cards at random from your hand for 4 damage to our creature or player. You know what, if you're packing excess lands, it's not bad. Especially if you're running something along the lines of a Crucible of Worlds in it, but Crucible of Worlds wouldn't see print just yet either. Bear. Simoon! It's a reprint from Mirage, of all places. I believe it's been reprinted at least 1 more time since this as well. Red, green, instant, 1 damage to all creatures that target opponent controls. It's not a bad card. Can really screw people up. Sleeper's Robe, creature enchantment for blue-black. Enchanted creature effectively gains fear, effectively. And when it deals combat damage to opponent, you may draw a card. Not bad. Sterling Grove. All other enchantments you control have Shroud. You pay a cost and sacrifice the Grove to search your library for enchantment. Reveal, shuffle, put that card on top. Bear. Wings of Hope, creature enchantment, white-blue, enchant creature gets +1/+3 and flying. It's not bad, it's okay. Once again, another one of those cards that's really there for the limited game. And why do I have so many in there? I shouldn't have that many at all. For some reason I didn't filter out the excess copies. Hold on a second here. Those 4 look like they're in good shape. Toss the rest off to the side. Yavimaya, Barbarian, more Bear. Ether Rift, colorless red-green enchantment. Beginning of your upkeep, discard a card at random from your hand. If you discard a creature this way, put that creature into play unless any player pays 5 life. That's kind of interesting. Not sure what I think of it, but it's interesting. Armadillo Cloak. This card ripped people up in Draft and Sealed Deck. It's colorless white-green. Enchant creature gets +2/+2 trample lifelink. Or at least that's effectively what it did. Little bit different in actual application sometimes. But yeah, this thing would rip people up. It was drafted higher than many rares. Aura Shards, colorless green-white, enchantment. When a creature comes to play under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. That's kind of spiffy. It's kind of spiffy. Backlash. Colorless black-red, tap target untapped creature. That creature deals damage equal to its power to its controller. And it's an instant. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's a nice little combat trick, you know? Or rather, pre-combat trick. Cinder Shade. It's a 1/1 for a colorless black-red. He's got the Shade mechanic where you pump black and he gets +1/+1 till end of turn. And you can pump red and sacrifice him for damage equal to power to target creature. It's kind of interesting. Dueling Grounds is an interesting one. Colorless white-green. It's an enchantment. Only one creature no more than one creature can attack. No more than one creature can block. If you have one of those creatures that needs to be blocked by more than one creature, you're golden. Because there's no way in heck for your opponent to meet those criteria. It's like, wait, it can only be blocked by 3 or more creatures, but no more than one creature can block. Effectively makes them unblockable. Fires of Yavi freaking Maya.
colorless red-green enchantment. Creatures you control have haste. Sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya. Target creature gets +2/+2 till end of turn. Wow, Fires of Yavimaya was a part of a lot of really aggressive decks back in the day. It's a surprisingly solid card. I don't know if it would make the cut today, but it's still a fun card. Hannah, Ship's Navigator, one of the Weatherlight crew, the daughter of the Wizard Baron and the Wizard Rain. Rain died during the last part of Mask's block while trying to fight off a Keldon invasion of Jumara. And Hannah died from Phyrexian Plague during invasion. And Baron, who'd been with Urza, following Urza, sticking with Urza for ages upon ages, lost everything. Lost his wife, lost his child. And that's where we get the cards like Exhume, where you see him like digging up Hannah. Takes her to Teleria, where the Phyrexians are invading hardcore and no one can really stop them. Lays Hannah down next to his wife's grave, and then casts Obliterate. He lost everything. Lost everything. Sad story. Hannah herself, though, she's a 1/2 legendary creature. Not sure what her creature types would be today. Colorless white, blue, tap, return artifact or enchantment from graveyard to hand. She's a combination of Argivian Archaeologist and Skull of Orm, and that's really awesome. She would be an interesting combo enabler if people want to use her. I don't think people play those kind of combos much today because a lot of them are slow. A lot of them are slow. Hunting Kavu! We've got Kavu. He's a 2/3 for colorless red-green, colorless red-green tap, and exile himself and target creature without flying that's attacking you. He's Giant Trapdoor Spider with the word Kavu on him. If you don't know Giant Trapdoor Spider, go do some research on Ice Age. Noble Panther, he's a 3/3 for a colorless red-green, colorless white-green. Let alone, for the age, puts him above the mana curve. You can pump colorless and give him first strike till end of turn. Honestly, I mean, he's not Watch Wolf, but he's got a slight advantage over Watch Wolf in a way. Especially seeing as how Watch Wolf wouldn't be printed for many years. Overabundance, colorless red-green. It's Mana Flare and Mana Barbs all at once. Pyre Zombie, he's an interesting one. He's a 2/1 for a colorless red-black. During your upkeep, if he's in your graveyard, you can pay a colorless and double black, and if you do, return him from graveyard to hand. You can also pay a colorless and double red and sacrifice him for 2 damage to our creature or player. He's a recurring damage engine. It's not bad. Raging Kavu, he's a 3/1 hasty. 3/1 haste and flash for a colorless red-green. That's not bad. I don't have a lot of him. But well, Recoil is kind of interesting. Colorless blue-black. Return target perm to owner's hand. Then that player discards a card from hand. If your opponent's got no cards in hand when you recoil his creature, guess what he's discarding? No, really, guess. Riptide Crab, it's a 1/3 vigilant. And when he goes to the graveyard from play, you draw a card. He's okay. Semi-Archer, it's a cross between Semi-Healer and Avenant Archer. It's kind of spiffy. Stalking Assassin, he's a Royal Assassin with a tap-down ability as well. Unfortunately, both of his abilities require tapping him. If you have a means to untap him, or if you have a separate tapper or whatever, he could be interesting. Fortunately, it also costs 4 mana to use his ability, so I don't know. Urborg Drake, in my opinion, better than it looks. It's a 2/3 flying, attacks each turn if able, for a colorless blue-black. It's not bad. Vicious Kavu, it's a 2/2 Whenever it attacks, gets +2/+0 till end of turn. He's okay. Vile Consumption, it's an enchantment. All creatures have the beginning of their upkeep sacrifice this creature unless you pay 1 life. It's interesting. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking of maybe like combining that with that new Sundial card that lets you end the turn. Yeah, during my upkeep I got a bunch of creatures, I have to pay life or sacrifice them, I end the turn. Go. Okay, try to finish this up real quick. I think the battery's got enough charge in it at this point. Okay, so as I was saying, Horned Cheetah, the 2/2 with effectively lifelink. Basically, it's a reprint of Zebra Unicorn from Mirage. I'm hoping I didn't, clip myself off. What was the last card I was mentioning? Charging Troll with 3/3 Vigilance for Generator. It's kind of cool. Kangi Eerie Keeper. He's 4 mana, 2 in blue and a red for a 2/2 with kicker of 2 colors and X and flying. When he comes into play, if you paid the kicker cost, put X feather counters on him. All birds get +1/+1 for each feather counter on him. That's pretty saucy. Lobotomy. Lobotomy. This is an interesting card. It's been printed a few times in a couple of different sets. I can't remember if this was the first print. Yeah, the first printing was in Tempest, if I recall correctly. It's 2 colors and a blue and a black for sorcery. Look at your opponent's hand and choose a non-basic land card. Search their graveyard, hand, and library for all cards of the same name and exile them. And then they shuffle their deck. That's pretty saucy. That's some saucy stuff. That's one of those cards that actually isn't much good in Limited, but it's really got a nice effect in Constructed. Reckless Assault. 1 colors, pay 2 life, deals 1 damage to our creature or player. I wouldn't use it. It just fails to impress me. Reviving Vapors. It's an instant for 2 and a white and a blue. Reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand. Gain life equal to the card's converted mana cost. Put the other cards revealed this way into your graveyard. It's interesting. Seer's Vision. It's an enchantment. All opponents play with their hands revealed. Sacrifice it to look at target player's hand. Choose a card from it. That player discards that card. Play this ability only anytime you could play a sorcery. Interesting. Not sure if I like it or not, but it's interesting. Slinking Serpent. It's just a 2/3 Forest Walker, but it's a blue-black Forest Walker, which makes it kind of interesting. Smoldering Tar. At the beginning of your upkeep, target player loses a life. Sacrifice it to deal 4 damage to target creature. Play the sacrifice ability only as a sorcery. It's kind of interesting. Voracious Cobra. 2/2 first strike with Proto Death Touch. That's nasty. That is nasty. The only other creature printed beforehand that had a similar ability was a 6/4 first striker in black in the Exodus set, and I can't even remember what the heck he was called. But yeah, this guy's pretty awesome. He does funk. Yavimaya Kavu. He's 2 colors and a red and a green. Has power equal to the number of red creatures you control. Toughness equal to green creatures. Interesting. Armored Guardians. He's 5 mana, 3 and a white and a blue for a 2/5. Pump 1 and double white, and he gains color protection of your choice till end of turn. Pump 1 and double blue, and he gains Shroud till end of turn. Frenzied Tilling. 3 red, green. Destroy target land. Search your library for a basic land. Put it into play tapped. Shuffle. That's not bad. It's actually it's reasonably solid in Limited. In Constructed, it's only useful if you have a trick to use on it, like Radiate, but that's really mana intensive. But on the other hand, if you Frenzy Tilling and Radiate it, you've nuked every land on the board and pretty much tutored through your deck for most of your remaining lands. At least your remaining basic lands. Ordered Migration, 3 colors, white, blue. It's a sorcery. You put a... Okay, a 1/1 blue bird token with flying into play for each basic land type amongst land types you control, blah blah blah. It's a funky little domain thing. Teferi's Moat. Only own one of these, sadly. It's enchantment. It comes into play, you choose a color. Creatures of the chosen color without flying can't attack you. Kind of snazzy. Void. 3 colors, black, red, sorcery. Choose a number, destroy all artifacts and creatures with converted mana cost equal to that number. Then target player reveals his or her hand, discards all non-land cards of that converted mana cost. That's interesting. It's pretty saucy. That can punish people. Cauldron Dance. Play only during combat. 4 colors and a black and a red. Return target creature card from your graveyard to play. That creature gains haste. Return it to your hand at end of turn. Put a creature from your hand into play. That creature gains haste. Put it into graveyard at end of turn. That's pretty saucy. That's pretty saucy. So you pay 6 mana, and I reanimate this. It comes in attacking, and I take this from my hand. It comes in attacking. The one that came in from my graveyard goes to my hand. The one that came from my hand goes to the graveyard. Actually, no, you play only during combat. So the one that comes in... Actually, no, they both come in and gain haste, but they're not coming in attacking. Mind you, you can play this at the beginning of the combat phase before they declare attacker's step. So, yeah, you can do interesting stuff with that, though. Very interesting stuff. Plague Spores, 4 black and a red, sorcery. Destroy target non-black creature and target land. They can't be regenerated. It's not bad, but it's high on the mana curve. Saber-Tooth Nishoba. He's interesting. He's a 4 colors, white green for a 5/5 trample pro blue pro red. That's some sauce right there. So, you know, it's just like, you can't bounce him, you can't burn him, and trample, so you can block him, but it's generally not going to be as effective as you'd like it to. Finish this up. Spinal Embrace, 3 colors, double blue and a black. Play only during combat. Untap target creature you don't control, gain control of it. Gains haste until end of turn. End of turn, sacrifice it. If you do, gain life equal to its toughness. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. The Cycle of Legendary Dragons from Invasion. They're all 3 colorless and 3 colors. 1 color and 2 allied colors. They're all 6/6 flyers, and they all have a triggered ability that goes off when it deals combat damage to an opponent, and you can pay 2 colors and 1 of that dragon's primary color, so 2 and 1 of something, for an effect. For example, Crosses the Purger. 3 colors, blue, black, red. That's black and its 2 allied colors. When he hits, when he deals combat damage to a player, you can pay 2 colors and a black. If you do, choose a color. That player reveals his or her hand and discards all cards of that color. Once again, you also see that the color matters theme does come up in these guys as well. Darigaz the Igniter. Black, red, green. When he hits, you pay 2 colors and a red. If you do, choose a color. Player reveals his or her hand, and Darigaz deals X damage to him or her, where X is the number of cards of that color that they revealed. It's nice. Dromar the Banisher. When he hits, you pay 2 colors and a blue, and you return to owner's hands all creatures in play, yours and your opponent's, of the chosen color. Now, the only problem with Dromar is that there's only 2 colors you can choose. That won't bounce himself as well. Yeah, that's kind of silly, right? Rith the Awakener. Two colors and a green when it hits, and if you paid it, you get a number of Saproling tokens equal to the number of permanents in play of the chosen color. That's nice. Trevor the Renewer. Life gain equal to number of permanents of chosen color. Rith and Rith is generally overall the best of those, though Darigaz has a nice effect, as does Crossus. Sabo Tavik. 7/4 first strike, protection from legends. I'm not sure if today that would be eroded to say legendary permanents or legendary creatures. I'm not certain. Black, tap, destroy target legend. Can't be regenerated. I'm forced to wonder what that would look like today, if it would say destroy target legendary creature or just destroy target legendary permanent. I'd have to look that up, you know? But back in the day, she was basically just there to hose legendary creatures. Meh. And this is the craziness, the second 5-color card ever printed in the history of the game. Coalition Victory. 3 colorless and 1 mana of each color. For a sorcery, you win the game if you control land of each basic land type and a creature of each color. Sometimes I joke about how I should put that in my Slither deck. Tee-hee. Alright, well, there it is, folks. I'm gonna stop this video, get the both halves of it spliced together, throw it up on YouTube, and hopefully it'll be ready for viewing sometime before midnight. But I'm not honestly expecting. I'm not really gonna be pretend to be have a positive attitude about that. I'm thinking it's probably going to be closer to 1 a.m. That does not please me. Oh well. So anyways, tomorrow we're going to be moving on into Plane Shift. Yay, Plane Shift. Ghana. You asleep over there? No, you're not. Well, Plane Shift tomorrow, Ghana. Not that that means anything to you. Stupid cat. Lucky I like you. Alright, have a good night, fellas. Be good.